Thank you so always. Thank you, Irina, for the invitation. It's really a pleasure speaking today as an alumni. And I just wanted to share with you very briefly my story, why I picked, why I came to GW, and how that has been very, as always said, very important in my professional life. I'm from Colombia, and I did my BA in civil engineering in Bogota, in Colombia. And when I finished my career, I was thinking about doing a master's in structural engineering because I was the TA of structures. And around that date, we had the 1992, I'm feeling old, Zoe, World Environment Summit, the Rio Summit, the Earth Summit in 92 in Rio, with the two big conventions on climate change and biodiversity. And in my first job in Colombia, I realized the important connection of energy and environment, but I wanted to do something related with engineering management at the same time. And one of the few programs that I found that made that connection at that time, I'm talking back in 92, 93, was GW. It was an engineering management program, but with a concentration in energy and environment. It was one of the four concentrations by that time. I don't know how many you have right now, but for me, it was amazing back in the 90s that now everybody assumes that's connection, energy, environment, climate. Back in the 90s, that was just a learning process about that. So for me, it was fascinating as an engineer to find a program that was making a connection of engineering management with that approach that Zoe mentioned on a systemic way with energy and environment. So I applied. I was very lucky to be accepted. I came to Washington. I mean, Washington for me was also a new discovery. It was an amazing experience. It was not the Washington that you see today. I mean, Washington today is one of the most beautiful cities worldwide in terms of urban recovery. By that time, it was impressive. It was the capital of the US. But now, the urban change that you are having, the recovery of the river, I mean, as a city, is also a good thing to say because I ended up living in DC. Not after I finished the program. When I finished the program, I went back to my country. But before telling you that story, it was for me, Zoe, very important the experience at the department to being able to experience what you just mentioned, the interdisciplinary approach, being able to connect as a technical person, as a civil engineer, with people from other departments, from economics, from law, from social issues. For me, that was great. In my career as a policy person, that helped me a lot. The other key issue was the experience of the campuses. By that time, the Leesburg, the Virginia campus was very new, and it was kind of an adventure taking a class there. It was very far by that time. Now you have even the metro close by. But in the 90s, it was like an adventure, going to the new campus. But for me, it was great to see that campus because it was one of the first intelligent buildings in the DC area. And when I went back to Colombia and I started talking about efficiency buildings and intelligent buildings, my example was the campus of GW. So sometimes just being in the campus, just using the facilities, create a good example to your professional life in the future. But to make a long story short, I came to DC just to do the master's for 2 years. My plan was to then go back to Colombia, to my country. But then I was in love with the program. I continued with the PhD. And for me, it was incredible the experience. I had my first job in the DC area with an engineering company that was specialized in waste and energy. Then I worked for the Organization of American States. And then I decided to do my thesis about how to develop models for greenhouse gas reductions, making that link of energy and environment for developing countries. And something that for me was key was the relationship, Zoe, as you mentioned, with the staff of the faculty. For me, the professors of the department, Jonathan Dison and Robert Romano, they were way beyond just a very good professors. They were advisors, they were mentors. For an international student, that's also very important. And that was very important for my life. So I decided to went back to Colombia. I thought it was just the finish of my phase in Washington and in the US. And I had the opportunity there to work for the private sector, for the Ministry of Environment. I was a principal advisor of the Vice President of Colombia, and I developed the national policy for climate change by that time in Colombia, using my thesis as one of the key inputs. Then was appointed Deputy Minister of Environment, Water and Sanitation. I was acting Minister of Housing. And after I finished my governmental experience, at the end, I came to the World Bank. So I was back in DC. I worked for the World Bank 2 years, and then I moved to the IDB, that is the most important development bank for Latin America and the Caribbean. And I've been there for almost 14 years. And part of my job, I'm the manager of climate change and sustainable development at the bank, is to interact with everybody. This is one of the most transversal interdisciplinary areas that we have, because it's related with everything. It's related with infrastructure, with transportation, with energy, with water, but it's related with all the fiscal issues now that we're seeing the impact of climate change and disasters into the fiscal accounts. It's related with the social department of the bank. So just to let you know and to finish with that, my word, Zoe, the interdisciplinary work that I'm doing now, I think since the beginning of my career and my training, not only from the academic point of view, but also, as you said, this view of systemic approach, this view of interdisciplinary is more or less what I've done in my career in the last 20, 25 years. And the impact that the program and GW had on that was very important. So I just wanted to say thank you. And I hope everybody applies. It's a great university and a great place to be. Hopefully with COVID, we'll be soon, everybody, you know, present again. And congratulations for the effort that you are doing to virtually continue all the education to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Juan Pablo, and thank you for coming back and talking to us. You said the 90s to date yourself, but actually I think it's extra impressive that you're still willing to answer our calls when we ask you to come and talk. So really appreciate your time on that. So can we go to the next slide?
I just saw a question about how I funded my studies. Very good question.
I know that Dr. Bonilla needs to leave, so if we can let him answer 1 or 2 questions now, if that's okay. So you can answer the questions in the chat if you want, absolutely. And then I'll move on.
I just saw the one about funding. Let me know if there are a couple and I will take them. As Zoe said, I have to leave before 10:30, but I'm more than happy to answer a couple of questions.
So how did you fund your studies?
That's an excellent question that I'm now talking to my daughter. My daughter is 17 and she started to apply to different universities. When you see the cost of education in the US, you get scared. And the first advice that I say to everybody is don't take that as a boundary to start, right? Just start your application process and then you can see, I mean, if you are a US student, you have different, you know, funding options here, but as an international student, the first thing that I did was to see what were the different loans or scholarships that we had back in Colombia. So for the master's program, Colombia had created in the 90s a very good program from the Office of the President, President Gaviria by that time, that was called Colfuturo. It was a very important fellowship program that the way it was structured, it was a loan that you take, but they have the incentive that if you go back to your country, to Colombia, then you have the scholarship part. So it was a loan, but then you have up to 50% scholarship if you, at the end of the program, went back to Colombia. So I took that one. And then I had another couple of loans from other institutions in the Washington area. And that's the way I funded the master's program. I then had the opportunity of applying to a fellowship at GW for the doctorate program based on merits, and I was very, very lucky to was awarded with the fellowship for the doctorate. So thanks to GW. But I work I work for the department, I work for Ticketmasters, and I enjoy a lot even learning about the different concerts. So you have to just pick the program that you like, and little by little you start finding different sources of funding. I know it's scary at the beginning, but just go for it.